This is Mike. I'm here on the NOVAROCK Festival with Stephen Wilson, this time as a solo artist. I say hi to Steve. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We did an interview exactly 10 years ago. It was 2003 at the Scene Wien at the In Absentia tour. And this was a time when I think nobody really knew your name or who you are or the band Porcupine Tree. Now, 10 years later, I think the whole prog world revolves around you. How does that feel?
Well, it's obviously it's very flattering to know that you're kind of seen as a seen at the centre of any scene. I mean, the scene that you refer to, the prog scene or progressive scene or whatever you want to call it, is slightly an unknown quantity, because I'm not quite sure what people think that expression really refers to these days, because obviously the whole nature of what's progressive has kind of broadened out a lot, even in the 10 years since we last spoke. You know, I think genuinely progressive music is kind of all around us, you know, whether it's Radiohead or, you know, or Sigur Rós, or, you know, I mean, for me this is all quite progressive music. But if you're talking about this smaller scene that's I guess that I've been a part of for a long time now, it's a shame in a way that there aren't more people doing what I'm doing. And one of the reasons I think you say that the whole thing revolves around me, I'm not sure that's entirely true, but I know what you mean, and I think part of the problem is that there isn't more people doing what I'm doing, which is a shame. I would have expected more people to have come through. So sometimes I do feel like I'm you know, like fighting a one-man battle, you know.
I said that because for the public it seems you got your fingers into every second band producing, and your solo records, the Porcupine Tree stuff, the No Man, all the things you do. It seems you probably don't have any spare time left.
I mean, I am quite prolific, and I do work a lot, and I like to work with different people. I think it's slightly... The people have a slightly distorted view of me as if sort of I'm making like 10 records at the same time all the time, and I'm not. You know, I haven't done anything with Porcupine Tree for 5 years now. The last record was made in 2008, 2009, so it's been a long time since I was writing or recording with that band. So I've pretty much focused only on my solo music for the last, you know, certainly the last 3 years. I've made 2 records, and I've pretty much focused on touring and making those records. But I am also involved mixing and producing a lot of other artists. And those commitments tend to be much shorter, and I think they give a kind of distorted view of me as someone that's kind of everywhere, you know.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's true then.
Yeah, it comes across like that. Compared to your work with Porcupine Tree, what is different for you in your solo band? Which things can you do which you can't with Porcupine Tree, for example?
Well, I think the thing about being in a band, when you're in a band that have like the work as a democracy, in other words, everyone has to agree that the direction of the music is one that everyone wants to go in. And although with Porcupine Tree I still wrote most of the music, there was a process whereby we wouldn't play music that everyone didn't feel comfortable playing. So that's the first part of your question, the answer to the first part of your question, which is, you know, why do I need a solo project? So the second part of the answer is exactly what do I do that I don't do in Porcupine Tree. I think the main thing is there's a stronger, almost jazz sensibility in the music I do as a solo artist. There's much less emphasis on the metal side, the heavier side. It's more... In a way, it's more organic and it's more old school. You know, I use a lot more keyboard instruments. I use a lot more instruments that are associated with jazz, things like flute, saxophone, keyboard instruments like the mellotron, Fender Rhodes, Hammond organ. It's a more kind of organic, old school musical palette, and there is a strong element of improvisation and the kind of what I associate is this kind of spiritual aspect of jazz. So it doesn't have such a clinical kind of rock thing to it, which I think... The thing is with Porcupine Tree, every show we played, every note was exactly the same. Every night, every note was exactly the same. With this band, every night is kind of a little bit of an adventure, because there's a lot more improvisation.
You burst the chains that you had with Porcupine Tree, you can say.
What is the what, sorry?
You burst the chains that you had with Porcupine Tree, the creative chains. are not here yet.
In a way, but I think it's probably true to say that if you're in any band, if you are a collective, then you will always end up with this word compromise somewhere. And compromise can be a good thing. I don't mean it as a bad thing. Sometimes compromise is what gives a band a strong sense of identity. Like this is the four people, and this is where these four circles cross, this little area in the middle. That becomes a really strong identity, and people begin to recognize that as the identity of a band. So it can be a really good thing, but at the end of the day also, as an individual, sometimes compromise becomes, well, just that. It becomes restricting, and I think I never intended that I would always be doing the same thing my whole life anyway, you know. If you say to anybody, you know, when they're a teenager, you're going to be working in the same office with the same people doing the same thing for the next 50 years of your life, they'd be horrified. And yet if you're in a band that are successful or have a successful brand, you're almost expected to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Every 2 years make an album, every 2 years make... And I don't really accept that. I think, you know, life is a gift and you should make the most of it. And I wanted to do other things.
Do you think your remaster work with Jethro Tull or Caravan or King Crimson did help to establish a new jazzier style for the solo thing?
I think definitely, by the way, it's remixing, not remastering.
I'm sorry, remixing, yeah.
Remixing that work, definitely, I think you can hear the impact of doing that work on my solo music, and you can hear that I've been basically immersing myself in that whole world of music. So we're going back to the early 70s, and you know, just the sounds, you know, acoustic guitars and Hammond organs and Mellotrons and Fender Rhodes and flutes, and all that stuff's buzzing around in my head. And of course it is, because I'm spending like weeks and weeks on end remixing these classic albums, and so my head is full of that music. So I think it's very natural that when I come to write my own music, that you tend to hear the influence, certainly, of those sounds. So I think that's definitely true, yeah.
I talked to Alan Parsons, I think 4 months ago, when he was in Vienna, and he was full of praise for your work together on your new solo record. Can we expect any further collaboration between you two? Because it will be hilarious.
It'll be hilarious. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. You know, Alan is a legend, and he's also somebody that when you're working with him, you can completely trust. And I have real bad control freak trust issues working with anyone. I'm such a control freak that I find it difficult to let go of any part of the artistic process, usually. But with Alan, it was easy to do that, and because I knew he was so good at what he does, and such an easy guy to get along with, and such a legend. So I really enjoyed that, and it's unusual for me to give away part of the control of the recording process. So it was kind of exceptional. But yes, in answer to your question, I would definitely love to do it again. It was a great experience.
Something in the direction of Alan Parsons, Steven Wilson project, something.
Oh, you mean to actually collaborate on something? Who knows? Who knows? Yeah.
We are having a big festival with several thousand people on it. Do you think your music on 4 in the afternoon will work in front of a Sunday audience on a big festival?
I guess we're going to find out. My natural instincts tell me no. Yeah, so we're going into this optimistic then, right? My natural instincts tell me no, yeah. But you know what? You have to do these things. The way I look at festivals is that it's like a battle. You're going into battle. You are walking out on stage without any of your visuals. I mean, I won't have any of my lights, none of the films, none of the other kind of visual stuff that goes with the show. I'm going out in front of an audience that probably don't know and don't care who I am, that are probably waiting to see Kings of Leon or whoever the headline band, and they've been standing there for 3 days already in the sun, and they're bored and they're tired and they're probably drunk, and the last thing they want to hear is some guy in his 40s playing 15-minute long songs with jazz solos. But you know what? I think if you can come off stage and say maybe 10% of those people out there are going to go online and check out the music now, and they're curious enough that they think that they want to go and maybe check it out again. And maybe a smaller percentage still of them will actually go out and end up going out and buying the record and maybe become fans. So I think of it as like a battle. I think 10% is my target. 10% of the people are actually listening and kind of engrossed in what they're hearing, then it's been worth doing.
That's a cool attitude. That's Mike, Stephen Wilson over here. Check it out on NOVAROCK.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks.